Good morning, all. See today the last point regarding the third module, that is input-output stream classes in Java. So we'll see the basic things as in accepting the input from the keyboard, seeing about the different streams which are being used for taking the input from the keyboard and displaying onto the monitor screen. Right? So we'll see first how to take input from keyboard. Whenever we press a key, how that key is being translated into machine level and then taken as an input from the keyboard and then taken for processing into your program. So whenever we need an input, we require a stream. So always a stream is required to accept the input from a keyboard. Whereas a stream represents the flow of data from one place to another place. Right? It's like you can say a water pipe from where the water flows from one end to another end. Right? Now in that real time case, what happens is water pipe carries water from one place to another, and a stream is calculating the data to carry it from one place to another place, right? So in this similar terms, what happens is your data is also carried in terms of bytes from one place to another place. Basically, there are two different types of streams. First, we have as input streams, and second, we have as output streams. So input streams are nothing but those streams which receive or read data, right? What we are doing here in input streams, we are either receiving data or reading data from some another place, coming from some another place. In output streams, what we do is we send data or write data to some another place, right? So reading and receiving data is a part of input stream. Sending or writing data is a part of output stream. Now what we'll do is we'll try to have an input from the keyboard, right? So taking an input from the keyboard can be done through this package. In all streams, whichever stream it might be, in all streams what we do is we require java.io package. That package helps you to read data and to print data on the screen, right? So taking an input from keyboard and displaying it onto the monitor. So this is done with the help of this java.io package, right? Basically, all streams are represented by the same class, right? So these streams, when represented by a field, that is in, whenever we want to take an input, we use this word as field as in, as system.in from system class. And if you want to display something output on the screen, right, that is system.out, right? Basically, we have used to display a message on monitor base as system.out.println, right? So if you want to display something on the monitor, use it as system.out. If you want to take an input, display it as system.in, right? So there are two categories, remember, input streams and output streams. So there are different fields. You have firstly as system.in. This represents the input stream object, right? As I explained, you remember the water flowing from a pipe example from one end to another end. Similar way, the data will also be carried from one point to another point, right? So one of the parties of taking an input as an example for keyboard, if you write as system.in, this will represent the input stream object, right? Which by default represent the standard input device. Which kind of input device? For example, consider it as a keyboard, right? So whenever you are pressing let's say a key, you'll be using input stream object. Second is system.out. You might have used this. This represents the print stream object, which by default represent the standard output device, that is your monitor screen where the output will be displayed, right? This will be done programmatically, both taking the input and displaying the output on the screen. The third one is system.err. This field also represents the same object class as of system.out, right? Which again by default represents the monitor as an output device, right? these both, that is system.out and system.err, can be used to represent the monitor, that is the output device, and any of these can be used to send the data to the monitor, right? So both system.out and system.err can be used to send a message on the output screen, right? So there might be a question that what is the difference if you're going to use both of these as system.out and system.err? What is the basic difference? See, the difference between these two is that out and .err both represent the you can say standard output device by default, but it can be used to send data or results to the monitor, right? Whereas system.out is used to display normal messages and results, whatever operations, or you can say you want to give a message to the user, that is a normal messages to be displayed on the monitor screen. Whereas system.err is used to display the error messages, right? So if I want to display something, I can use system.out as well as err. Now, which kind of message it is? If I want to ask a user to enter some integers, that won't be a kind of category under error, right? So this will be as an output. So what I'm telling him is to display a message, right? Just to indicate him, just to intimate that this is the way of how this program will be taking the input. So for that purpose, I'll be displaying a message to the user. So I can use at that time as system.out. System.err to display a kind of error. Suppose if a user has entered integer where you require a float or double, you can pop him a message that this is not a valid input, please try again. So in that case, system.err can be categorized as a displaying message for a normal message and for a error message, right? So this is a basic theme, how you can take input from the keyboard. I'll show you a diagram. As I said, the example for water flowing from one end to another end, similarly the data is being traveled. So consider this as your system.in, the way we write it programmatically, right? And consider this as your keyboard, right? So system.in will be dealing with your keyboard. When I press a key, what happens is this will generate a signal and particular key will be active, and that ASCII code will be triggered as in terms of data, right? So triggering in terms of data, what we need is a buffer, a kind of memory to store that character, that value which is being pressed by the keyboard as an input term, right? So what we need is we require two terms as input stream reader and buffered reader, right? You can see here buffer means you're having some kind of memory, and input stream reader defines whether you want to read data or you want to write data, right? So we'll be having these two all. So right now we are seeing that how to accept input from the keyboard, right? So this will be a kind of read. Instead of writing, we'll be seeing again displaying it on the monitor screen. So read indicates that we're going to have something as an input from the stream. So this is nothing but the stream, right? One end of pipe into another end of pipe. What we are getting when we press this, we are getting some data. But internally, how Java interprets with these two classes. First is input stream reader, and second is buffered reader. Now, just to connect, right, for this connection, this part over here, the connection between the keyboard and the input stream reader, programmatically, how we do connect, we use an object, right? So of input stream, right? System.in represents the input stream object. Now, we have reader and writer in that object. So I'm taking this class, right? Creating an object and using this as system.in. So this parenthesis you can think of as a keyboard. Whichever keys will be pressed over here will be taken into these as an arguments and will be passed to this object, right? So this is the first way just to connect to a keyboard via an input stream object. Then not connecting will be sufficient. We need to take that data, store it. If you want to process it or just want to display it, you'll be needing some kind of memory. So initially, connect that input stream reader to buffered reader, right? To read the input. Now, what does this do? This is another type of stream. What it does is had it has its own methods, right? It has got its own methods to read data properly coming from the screen, right? It is, you can say, have some memory to hold it, right? Before the data coming from the keyboard, what we use is internally two different methods as read and read line methods, right? So read, if you use, you will be reading the entire term, entire lines, or if you go for read line, you'll be having whole line reading, right? So there's two different, you can say, read has only the capability to read a single character. Even if you write an entire line, it will take the first character only from the keyword, right? And whereas for read line, you can read an entire line, right? Unless and until the next data is under the new line, right? And if you do not want to write these two lines separately and you want to combine this into a single line of code, that can also be written as in this way, right? So buffered reader, BR, this object name, new buffered reader, pass those arguments of this object as input stream reader over here, right? So these two lines or this single line both mean the same,